Hi, friends, welcome back to another um, series of wisdom, I guess. And I'm really excited to talk to you about today's Bible's verse, which is Proverbs 27:19. And this is how the verse goes. As in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man. So the face here also means presence, and also the man's heart. As we talked about in the last episodes, it heart just doesn't necessarily mean like a body. We have a heart and the cardiovascular muscles. It's the inner being of who a person really is. And the good news is, to those who believe in Jesus Christ, that inner being is being replaced by the Spirit of Christ crying out, Abba, Father. So, the inner being, the inner man, the inner spirit is now the Spirit of Christ crying out, Abba, Father. This is so key because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, or how the man is inside, that deep down identity, how the man acts about that identity reveals who that man really is. um, this is really essential because sometimes in my life, when I have thoughts of stress or thoughts that are not aligned with God's words, thoughts of stress, thoughts of anxiety, or thoughts of depression, all these things, that means deep down, my inner man, because I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe that my inner man is exactly identical to Jesus Christ. So if I'm not really acting with respect to my inner man, that means somewhere in my identity, somewhere in my thinking, I'm not thinking in line with who God called me to be or what happened in the inner being. So that's actually an indication for me to go back and work with God, saying, where in my identity am I thinking wrong? Because I am experiencing these things. So that's how I process my emotions. Oftentimes my friends say that, oh, you don't have to be so strong. You can just be okay to vent or show emotions. I do vent. There are like times I really need sometimes validation, so I go to my friends. But the deep essence of why our emotions are going in a certain way is kind of an indication of how we're thinking. So in my heart, if I go down in a path of something that contrary to my true nature, which is the nature of Christ, that means, which is like, oh, if I have the nature of Christ, I would eventually like trust God. Because think about God of the universe. For him, nothing is a big deal. For us, some little things could be a big deal. So for me to have this focus always on God, um, my inner man is actually reflecting the image and nature of Christ. So I don't have to be in stress, I don't have to be in anxiety, I don't have to be in depression, I don't have to be in unforgiveness. So as soon as I start noticing these types of thoughts rising, that's an indication for me that somewhere in my thinking, somewhere in my emotions, I have entertained something that's not who I really am, in like being my inner being. So what I do is, every time I catch these thoughts, because I know scriptures like this, so a man's heart reveals the man's inner man reveals who the man really is. And because there are other scriptures like, out of an abundance of a heart, a mouth speaks. So sometimes when I'm going through certain things, I come out a little bit in a sense where I'm strong enough because I practice these things in my inner mental ladder. I go in my ladder and I see where I'm thinking contrary to love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self control. And I work my self back because I know my inner man is equal to Jesus Christ. And once I identify where I have uh, thought it wrong, I can go back to God and work it out and ask God, God, can you reveal yourself in this specific area? And once I have that accomplished in my heart, I can go back to a circumstance, or even I can go back to people, and I can just express saying, hey, when you said that, that didn't bless me. This is what it's happening. I worked this out with God, but this is what something that could be useful for me if I receive it this way. So I can have a whole new perspective, a whole new conversation in how I do about my life. And I can live in this joy all the time because in the last recording we talked about how important joy is for health. So I hope this small thing is helpful, and if you find yourself in a thinking that's reflecting something that's contrary to your inner man, I kind of recommend the steps of going back and catching those thoughts and thinking where in my identity that I seeing my inner man that's not equal to the nature of Christ. And I hope this helps you. Until next time, have a great day and be blessed, friends.